Dell just updated their 13-inch XPS laptop for 2018 with a number of physical changes and the latest Intel processors that up the ante from a dual-core to a 4-core design. As one of Apple's biggest competitors in the laptop space, we decided to pit the XPS against the latest 13-inch MacBook Pro and see how the two stack up. Starting with the exterior, the XPS is both smaller and lighter than the MacBook. Width is basically the same, but the MacBook is a bit deeper. Our MacBook Pro is also thicker overall if you omit the feet, like Dell does in its measurements. The biggest reason why Dell can fit the 13-inch display in such a small shell is the Infinity Edge design, which makes the screen feel like it's floating. Impressive as it does have some limitations that we'll cover in just a bit. Most would agree that the Dell XPS 13's design isn't as nice as the MacBook's simple but beautiful all-aluminum build, but it still looks and feels great with a mix of aluminum and soft touch coated carbon fiber. My only design suggestion would be a cutout for opening the display and slightly softer hinge resistance for non-touchscreen models. Battery capacity is close, but our MacBook Pro does include a higher wattage charger. Both use USB-C connectors, but the XPS charging cable does include an LED indicator and a cable management clip, but unfortunately it's hardwired into the power brick. You won't need to use them often though, since both have above average battery life. With the 2016 redesign of the MacBook Pro, Apple went all in on Thunderbolt, but thankfully left the headphone jack. The 2018 update of the XPS made the machine lighter and thinner, forcing Dell over to 3 USB-C ports, 2 of which support Thunderbolt 3 and a microSD card slot. Thankfully, the Thunderbolt ports are now full speed, supporting 4 PCI lanes just like the MacBook Pros, meaning you can now connect external graphics cards. Dell does include a USB-A adapter, which is a nice extra Apple does not afford. Even though the XPS shows a charging logo next to the top left USB-C connector, just like the MacBook Pro, you can charge the notebook through any of the ports. We also get a convenient 4 LED battery indicator and a status light on the front of the machine. Taking a look at specs, our machines come with 8GB of low-power DDR3 memory, but the MacBook's is clocked slightly faster. Both ship with 256GB of really fast solid-state storage, with the XPS's running faster this time around, but with speeds this high, you don't really notice a difference. One of the most important upgrades in the 2018 XPS 9370 is the 8th generation Intel CPU, which for the first time features 4 cores and 8 threads in a power-sipping 15-watt design. Let's see how much difference 2 extra cores and a higher boost clock makes in a few benchmarks. Starting with the Geekbench 4 CPU test, the single-core speeds were surprisingly similar, but taking a look at multi-core results, the quad-core in the XPS really shines, being about 45% faster than the already impressive MacBook Pro. Taking a look at Cinebench R15, a 3D rendering benchmark, the XPS 13 swoops in with a score almost 60% faster. This is a huge step up in CPU performance per watt compared to previous quad-core designs, coming in slightly faster than a 2015 15-inch MacBook Pro and getting close to the current base model 15-inch MacBook Pro while using less than half the wattage. Both of these machines come with integrated Intel graphics, but the MacBook Pro comes with a higher-end Iris Plus graphics, resulting in roughly 30% higher Geekbench 4 OpenCL scores. If you'll be doing light gaming or other tasks that can directly use all of the graphics performance, the Mac will fare better, but tasks such as video editing and rendering will still be faster on the Dell since they are CPU reliant. Cinebench R15's graphics test gave us a 25% higher frame rate on the XPS thanks to the faster CPU. All of this CPU power is nice, but how do these machines perform in day-to-day use? I'll have to save one of the biggest differences between these two, the operating systems, for a later comparison. My personal preference is Mac OS, even though I've spent many more years using Windows, but if you're trying to decide between these two laptops, I take it you're open to either OS, so let's move on and take a look at displays. Putting it right out there, the MacBook's display is better in every way. Sure, the Dell's almost bezel-less design is striking, but it also forces the webcam down next to the hinge. This makes for a very unflattering perspective that could be a deal breaker for those that often use the camera. This is a webcam and microphone test on the mid-2017 MacBook Pro. This is a webcam and microphone test on the 2018 Dell XPS 13. The Mac not only looks better in terms of viewing angles, but also video and sound quality. Both of these machines fall into the 13-inch category, but the MacBook screen is slightly larger and also uses a 16:10 configuration, resulting in extra vertical space, which makes small screens much more usable. The XPS 13 is closer to the 12-inch Retina MacBook in usability, sharing the same height but coming in slightly wider. The MacBook also comes out on top in regards to color accuracy, viewing angles, as well as resolution. This results in about twice as many pixels, which is definitely noticeable. What matters even more for me is display brightness, where the MacBook Pro's 500 nits make it usable in bright rooms and outdoors, but the Dell XPS's more standard 350 nits struggles. Dell does offer a touchscreen 4K option which has even better color accuracy than the MacBook, but unfortunately it's just as dim. We think the 1080p option will be better for most since 4K is really overkill on a 13-inch display, and Windows 10's mediocre resolution scaling can cause issue at times. You also have to spend more money, and the battery life takes a noticeable hit as well. Before I move to my favorite feature of the XPS, I want to let you know that AppleInsider partner B&H Photo is offering our viewers exclusive savings on both the 13-inch MacBook Pro and the Dell XPS 13 featured in this video, with free expedited shipping and no sales tax collected in most states. Simply send us a note at priceguides@gmail.com to request a time-sensitive, one-time use promo code. Along with the built-in fingerprint reader, which our non-touch bar MacBook lacks, one of our favorite features is the Windows Hello sign-in. It uses tech similar to Face ID and works incredibly well. As someone who loves Face ID on my iPhone X, this is exactly what I want on my MacBook, iMac, and iPad. As soon as I fully open the XPS 13, I'm already logged in just like when I swipe up on my iPhone. Apple does offer Touch ID login if you buy a more expensive MacBook or auto login with an Apple Watch, which I stopped using since it often took longer than entering my password. Below the XPS 9370's display, we're met with a surprisingly good keyboard that most will prefer compared to Apple's minimal travel butterfly keys. I'm one who actually likes the really clicky keys on the latest MacBooks unless I have a full day of writing to do, which results in tired fingers. The XPS keys are fairly quiet with a quality feel resulting in one of the best keyboards I've ever used on the Windows machine. Moving even lower, the trackpad is a big step behind Apple's. Just like the display, it's not bad, and it's likely one of the best options in a Windows laptop, but once you get used to Apple's Force Touch trackpad that's about twice as large and has perfectly even feel no matter where you press, and that could be adjusted to users' preference, nothing else compares. Unfortunately, it's a similar story with the speakers. This is probably the first area that I'd actually complained to Dell about. The volume is good enough for most situations, but the sound quality is subpar and the speakers fire to the sides. Our 2017 13-inch MacBook Pro speakers face the user and are louder with more boom on the low end, cleaner mids, and crisper highs. If you're coming from a cheaper Windows laptop, you'll likely be fine with the speakers, but anyone moving from a MacBook will be disappointed. If Dell were to improve on the trackpad, speakers, and display brightness, the XPS 13 would be a near perfect product. On the other hand, I'd love to see Face ID in a MacBook along with the same 8th generation Intel processors. I'd also take thinner bezels as long as it doesn't result in the webcam moving below the display. Dell has done a great job creating and updating the 13-inch XPS. Not only is it thinner, lighter, and smaller than Apple's latest 13-inch MacBook Pro, it does so with great build quality, impressive performance, and better battery life. If you're flexible and are considering a Windows machine, the Dell XPS 13 9370 would be at the top of my list. For me personally, and others entwined in Apple's ecosystem, that grip is too tight to get out of, and even if I could, I'd need to wait for better speakers and trackpads. If you enjoyed this video, like it and hit that subscribe button. Also, check out our price guide, which makes it extremely easy to find the best deals on Apple products updated daily. Be sure to follow us on social media, and we'll see you in the next video.